Today we are going to talk about health monitoring and retrofitting of structures with special emphasis on heritage building. So the parts which are involved are basically health monitoring, structural health monitoring, which is kind of new for many people. We are not much implementing health monitoring technologies in our region.
Sir, your voice is low, sir.
Is it? Okay, I'll try to speak little loudly. Let me know if it is still low.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will be discussing about health monitoring aspect. We will be discussing about retrofitting, and we will have emphasis on heritage building. But as I said, I mean we will have an emphasis, but it doesn't mean that it's not suitable for our other building. Whatever we are going to discuss is very well suitable for even a smallest residence building. But heritage building are most important kind of building whose valuation is very difficult to evaluate. So we'll have some emphasis on that. We'll be discussing about the model procedure for retrofitting of the structures. We'll be discussing about the analysis methodology of heritage structures. We'll be discussing about structural health monitoring. And finally, retrofitting examples. So primarily in current scenario, when we do retrofitting of structure, it may be any structure, steel structure, RCC structure, or even heritage structure. Typically what we follow is we go for visual inspection. We collect some data from site. We see kind of distress which are visible on the structure. And based on our visual inspection, we recommend the retrofitting strategy. Like the structural engineer see some deflection, some tilt, or maybe some settlement, and he suggests for maybe foundation is settling, so strengthening of strata is required. Let us do some lime grouting. Let us increase the area of foundation. So that kind of retrofitting we are doing in our present practice. Sometimes the structural engineer or architect felt that columns are unsafe because those are cracking. So we provide jacketing, steel jacketing to the column. But essentially our procedure involved only two steps. One is a visual inspection and another is directly recommendation of retrofitting strategy. But that is not the complete procedure. The model procedure what one should follow should include these four steps as well. Structural analysis, correlation of site observation, structural health monitoring, and long-term structural health monitoring. So we will talk about this. So in model process, what we should do is we should go and we should visit. Obviously, that's what we are doing right now also. So we should go, we should visit, we should look for different kind of problems in the structure. Obviously, we must talk with the occupants of the structure. We must know how they are feeling, safe, unsafe. Sometimes because we may miss the cracks. We are not seeing the structure every day. The occupant is seeing the structure every day. So he may be able to give us better input regarding his own structure. So we must look for deterioration, weathering effect, tilt of structure, cracks in structures. We must classify the cracks, whether the cracks are random, those are directional cracks. Because typically there are not single symptoms, there are multiple symptoms, and the symptoms can be correlated and could be made into complete story about the structural deterioration. So we must look for deflection, overloading. Like sometimes the structures are designed for residential building and then they are used for educational building. It's common. I mean, these classes are operating in residential zones. So overloading is a very common fact. Even that is true about the industrial building as well. And sometimes execution faults. So all these things we must note in our visual inspection. Like here I am showing you one example. I visited this temple for retrofitting work. I discussed with the people around and they told me that Ahilya Holkar has put this temple below the soil to safeguard it from Mughal invaders. Now later, what happened is people opened the temple from front side, as you can see in this photo. As you can see, front side is open, but the back side is not open. What has happened is this soil field worked as a lateral force on the temple from one side towards longitudinal side. And finally, it resulted in tilt in the column. Now, these problems you can locate only through visual inspection and discussing with the occupants of the structure. In some cases, and that is more specific about heritage masonry structure, deterioration can be insignificant. Now, how insignificant? Like here you can see in photographs, the structure is deteriorated. In this case, the chhajja portion is completely damaged, demolished, but the structure is standing. From inside of the dome, if you see, the plaster is removed. Even there are pockets in masonry where birds' nests are created. Now, whether these deteriorations are significant or insignificant, so for that UNESCO guidelines are very clear that heritage structure should be retrofitted only if it warrants the threat to life of occupants or threat to existence of structure. Now see whether this removal of chhajja is a threat to the stability of the structure. Obviously not. This removal of plaster, is it threat to the structure, threat to the occupant? These small pockets, these are not threat to the occupants or the structure. In such cases, UNESCO guidelines specifically says that you should not do any retrofitting to this structure. These structures are in fact very beautiful in its original form. But as you see in this photo, the beam is cracked. Now, if the beam is cracked, this beam can fall at any moment. So it's a threat to the life of occupant as well as threat to the structure. In such cases, we must go for retrofitting. Not just about heritage masonry structures, but if we see our regular industrial structure, residential structure, there are problems. Like one project we did in Qatar, we observed that there are failures in dampers, failures in members. So these are we need to collect when we are visiting the structure. Another example I am showing bridge at Kasara, where there are longitudinal cracks. Another one is one farmhouse at Tuscan. After visual inspection, we should collect relevant data. We should collect architectural drawings. Now, in case of heritage structures, from where to get architectural drawing, structural drawing? Obviously, you need to develop those drawings. There are 3D scanners available. Even surveying can be used. Total station can be used to create the drawings. So there are many methods which can be used to create the drawings for heritage. But we must create or collect the drawings. We must collect structural analysis report if any past reports are there, geotechnical report. If it is a regular residential building, commercial building, then we must collect the completion certificate. As-built drawing. Sometimes as-built drawing are different than working drawing or planned drawing. We should collect MEP drawing. And any site observation by user, which is most important part. Once the stage 1 is completed, we should do structural analysis. So somebody may say, sir, if we are going to do structural analysis for the retrofitting, then it's as good as design of new structure. But honestly speaking, retrofitting is more difficult, more time consuming, more laborious task compared to design of new structure. And it warrant for more efforts if you want to give justice. Like if you are designing new structure, analysis is very easy because architectural drawings are readily available. You know your assumptions, you can create your mathematical model. But in case of heritage structure, it becomes more difficult. After doing structural analysis or mathematical model, we must correlate our structural analysis with the site observations. But before that, my question that, as I said, heritage structures are more difficult for the analysis. Tell me how to analyze this heritage structure. For example, if I take Taj Mahal, moment distribution method, Kani's method, moment distribution method, which method should be adopted for the analysis of Taj Mahal? Which software should be used? We'll discuss that in detail. Then the structural analysis result should be correlated with the site analysis, site observations. Then comes is a structural health monitoring. So what is this structural health monitoring? What we do when we feel sick? We approach to the doctor. I mean, same, when we have distress in our structure, we approach to the structural engineer or to the architect. The doctor suggests us some test. It may be blood test, ECG, EEG, and then give prescription. This all is done to safeguard one life. Now, what if many lives are at stake? I mean, we are experiencing this right now. We are all facing corona, and we know that one patient can do lot of contamination, can transmit disease to many patients. So our concern are larger. We are under lockdown. Why? It's not because our concern is single patient. Our concern is many patients. So how can we audit or certify this structure based on just visual inspection? Like I have shown in this previous slide, it's like jumping from first stage that you approach to the doctor and he gives prescription without any test. It was happening 50 years ago in medical field, not today. But unfortunately, it is still happening in the field of structural engineering. As it is said that doctor's mistake can claim a life, but engineers can lead to many. So we have to be more cautious. And if we are not cautious, then what happened? This is list of the bridges which are failed in India. And the people died in the accident. So what is this structural health monitoring for the building? We spend our time in different type of structures and our safety depends obviously on safety of these structures. Like if you are staying in your residential building, your safety, your family safety depends on safety of that residential building. If you are working in office, obviously all occupants safety depends on safety of that particular office building. When we say structural health monitoring, we need to understand meaning of monitoring. What to monitor? So we need to monitor the system, we need to monitor the condition we need to monitor the structural component on which the stability of the structure depends. There are different codes available for structural health monitoring. Till now, there is no code available in India. IS code is not available for structural health monitoring. But now Make in India and many such drives are pushed. So I hope we will develop our own code very soon about the structural health monitoring. ASTR is already working on it. We already published one book for retrofitting, how to do retrofitting of different structure, where I contributed one chapter on heritage structure retrofitting. So there are different country codes available which specify monitoring parameters, how to select the location for monitoring, how to select the sensor, data acquisition method, and most important, structural safety evaluation and alarm. That what are the level of acceptance for this observed value. In structural health monitoring, we need to monitor these parameters. Like we may monitor tilt of the building, tilt of the particular component like column, crack growth monitoring. If cracks are there, the growth should be monitored. Like if crack is there and growth is there, that simply doesn't mean that structure has a problem, because due to increase in temperature, the crack can increase. In summer, the crack could be having higher value. In winter, it could have lower value. In afternoon, it could have higher value, more width. In midnight, it may have lower value. So we need to correlate all the readings. We need to correlate it with strain monitoring, stress monitoring, vibration monitoring can be done. It's very useful. And that too, that should be correlated with environmental factor like temperature, humidity, etc. If it's bridge, we should monitor loading, what kind of loading, vehicle loading, etc., wind loading is applied. Here you can see tilt monitoring. Equipments are basically simple. The technologies are very basic, because everything boils down ultimately to the basic principles of the physics. So as you go deeper and deeper to understand these equipments, you will understand that those equipments are typically operating on very simple principles of the physics. Here I am showing you tilt plate. Typically on site we check tilt using plumb. But plumb can give us just the fair idea whether the tilt is there or not. I don't know what count we can consider for the plumb ball, maybe few degrees. But if we check using this tilt plate, the list count is 0.01 degree. Similarly, crack growth can be monitored using crack meters. Here you can see crack meter which we installed at one of our site where we are doing health monitoring. You can even use simple crack meters like this, where the list count is 0.5 mm. But that's still better. I mean, you can have judgment if there are large deformations happening in building. Such basic crack meter can also be very useful. You can check the pressure in this structure. You can make your structure smart. You can use strain gauge. Like here you can see a graph plotted on DAQ on change in strain. Vibration monitoring, triaxial vibration monitoring. This is a graph of one site where we monitored on many points, but this is for one point. Triaxial vibrations are visible: X direction, Y direction, and Z direction. Maybe in case study we'll discuss it at little more length. Nowadays, smart sensors are available. Smart means the sensor which wake up during the impact when it's most needed. So it will consume minimum battery. It will consume minimum maintenance. The alert alarm system can be installed. Like we work in Qatar. Similarly, we saw another project where we contributed is metro, where the alarm system was installed. Nearby building in Delhi Metro and Mumbai Metro are installed with vibration alarm system. So these are smart sensors. These sensors can be used for long-term SHR, structural health monitoring. And the best example is human skin. There are many parameters on which the selection of sensor depends. I'll not go much technical, but still, I mean, list count, for example, list count is one important aspect. The structural engineer could be best judge who can tell what kind of deformation can appear in the structure. Based on that, you can decide what kind of list count is required, what kind of weather condition it needs to sustain, how long you need to put these sensors on the structure. All these parameters define what kind of sensor you require on your site. You need to define sampling frequency for doing the structural health monitoring. How frequently you need to take the readings. You need to decide the where you are going to put data acquisition system, data processing system. Based on transmission distance, you need to decide what kind of sensor system should be installed. Now, once you did visual inspection, you did structural analysis, you correlated your analysis with site observation, you did structural health monitoring, then it's a time that you use all this data, correlate your all these observations, your analytical result, and your recommendation for retrofitting should be result of all those stages. And many times, if you sincerely do it, many times it could be the decision of no intervention. The cracks could be very insignificant. The cracks could be dead. You don't actually require retrofitting. It may be possible, and you can save a lot of money, which otherwise could have been spent on retrofitting of this structure. Now, once the retrofitting is done, is that over? Like if there is a heart patient, he's been operated, so is that over? No, he has to go undergo some other test at some frequency to ensure that operation was done successfully. It is being effective. So you must implement long-term structural health monitoring policy. You must decide what test should be taken after what interval, whether that structure need to be monitored for another year, 10 years, 100 years. I am not exaggerating. Like Vicoporte Church is being monitored for more than 150 years. Leaning Tower of Pisa is being monitored for more than 150 years. People are monitoring. People are monitoring the important structure even for centuries. So it's not something new. Depending on the value of the structure, like what is the cost of Leaning Tower of Pisa, what is the cost of Taj Mahal, what is the cost of Ellora, what is the cost of Ajanta, thousands, lakhs, crores, you put whatever value you can put, but the value of this structure is still larger than that value. You cannot count it in your currency. It's so huge. So when we talk about this kind of structure, retrofitting of this structure, then monitoring for long duration for 100 years and 150 years is a small thing. Now, when we talk about this complete model process, and as I said, we will have some emphasis on heritage structure. This model process is applicable for any structure, even for your smallest residential building, because that's very important. You are staying in that building, your kids are staying in that building, your parents are staying in this building. So how somebody can say that structure is not important? 1000 square feet residence is very important structure. So if there is a question of retrofitting of that structure, honestly one should follow all these steps. But for heritage structure, it becomes more and more important because the cost of the structure is very high. So when we are saying that emphasis is on heritage structure, we must understand the more important points. One important point is structural analysis. As I said, how to do the analysis of Taj Mahal, whether we are going to use Kani's method, moment distribution method, slope deflection method. That's what we have learned in our curriculum. Few people learn finite element method. Few people learn bit of the more, maybe discrete element method and blah blah blah. But what is it? Because these are all new methods. Whether the ancient builders were aware of these all methods, and can we really use this method? As a structural engineer, we must know how to analyze this building. So I will be discussing bit on that. Maybe other than structural engineers may not get so much interested. So I beg your pardon on it. But I try to squeeze my presentation on that part as little as possible, and I'll try to keep it away from equations. So this is how the ancient builders have analyzed. What they did is they used funicular method. The funicular method says that you hang the chain, and opposite of that is good profile for arch. The proportionate load can be hanged to get the correct profile. Based on that, Heman has developed the thrust line method, modern thrust line method, which is similar version of the funicular method, very simple method. So I'll not, as I said, I'll not go in much of the technicality of the analytical methods, but this is the funicular method or thrust line method, which simply says that if thrust line is contained within a geometry of structure, the structure is safe. So stability can be interpreted in very simple form. That is big advantage of this method. But the difficulty when we come to retrofitting of these structures, the difficulty is these methods are useful for arches. For dome, this method says that the arch of the given section is safe, then dome is always safe. But essentially, you are ignoring the hook forces, the forces in this direction. So you are ignoring the strain. Secondly, most of the deterioration in this heritage structure are the result of settlement of strata, lateral loads like earthquake, or similar kind of effect, human-made effects. Now, such effects cannot be studied using simple approach, which are used by these ancient builders. We need some other approach which can take effect of support settlement, which can take effect of lateral loads, which can allow you to analyze for earthquake load. So obvious answer by anyone is finite element method. So people typically says that finite element method can be used for anything. So we will use finite element method. In finite element method, what we do is we divide the structure in smaller parts. We analyze the individual part, assemble the result, and we say that this result is valid for complete structure. There are different methods again in finite element. There is a micro modeling approach where you can model stone separately, you can model interface, that is mortar, separately. And if interface is failing, you say that the structure is failing. The limitation is you are not aware where are the joints. The thickness of stone masonry or brick masonry in this heritage structure is of tune of 3 meter, 5 meter. So how do you know where are the mortar and where are the blocks? Many researchers have worked on this approach. They pointed that with increased size of the numerical model or increased size of the structure, mathematical or numerical problem also appear. So basically, separating these units and mortars, blocks and mortars separately and analyzing is much difficult for realistic structures. There is another approach which is macro modeling approach, wherein we submerge everything and we use homogenization. And we predict the stress value, and based on that we judge the stability of the structure. The limitation is again if texture of the masonry, that is the block, how the block are arranged, how the mortar is put into the structure changes, the rules changes, the mechanical properties changes. So mechanical properties which are used for one structure are not valid for another structure. And identification of mechanical properties for this heritage structure is most difficult task, because you cannot take core from these structures, you cannot damage this structure, you cannot do destructive testing on these structures. So you cannot get the mechanical properties of the structure. You cannot get modulus of elasticity, Poisson's ratio. At least with accuracy, it's very difficult to identify this parameter. And in absence of this parameter, you cannot analyze the structure as homogenized. So as finite element lobby many times thinks that finite element can be used for analysis of anything, starting from aeroplane, human brain, bones, aerodynamics, you name it, and finite element is in that particular field. So people believe that finite element can be used anywhere. But here I am showing you some quote by very eminent researchers like Hotra. Hotra says that usual structural theory of framed structure, trusses, shell structure made of reinforced concrete and steel is of no use to study masonry architecture. And the finite element can only add noise to masonry analysis. It has no real value. Hotra is one of the most eminent person in structural analysis of masonry structure. Another one is the Heyman. He put one theory. He modified bit on thrust line, but his assumptions are very interesting. What he says that stone has no tensile strength, infinite compressive strength, and sliding failure is impossible. In short, he says that question of strength of masonry is not expected to enter the calculation. It doesn't matter what grade of concrete or mortar you are using in the structure. It's the geometrical analysis. So if it is a geometrical analysis, stress has no value, then why we are doing finite element analysis? Why we are calculating the stresses? So finite element cannot also be used directly for the masonry structure. So there are limitations in both the method, whether you use the method used by ancient builders or you use the method by modern engineers. Both methods have huge limitations in masonry structures. At Nandadeep, what we did is we have developed the combined method. We have developed new approach which is called as FETLA, finite element thrust line analysis method. As you can see here, we have contributed through many eminent international journals on the FETLA, that is the new method which we coined, which we offered for design or analysis of this heritage masonry structure. What this method do is it combines the advantages of both methods. As I said, I will still try to control the numerical part of it, because I know that everybody is not core structural engineer who are attending this presentation. But still, without speaking about the structural analysis of heritage masonry structure, this presentation will be incomplete. So I must address few things which I am trying to address. So in FETLA, what we do is we accept the assumptions made by Heyman that masonry has no tensile strength, masonry has infinite compressive strength. We put those assumptions on finite element method. Like here I am showing example of masonry dome. Masonry domes are typically cracked domes in hoop direction. Like in Aurangabad, you can see for Bibi Ka Maqbara, you can see stitching done by ancient builders. So these pins are very tiny. It cannot actually resist the hoop forces which are developed in this structure. So it shows that they failed to quantify the level of forces in this masonry dome. But still, it shows that cracks were appearing on that masonry dome as soon as its construction was completed. The cracks are visible even in a floor of that dome on terrace level. as here you can see the pins, stapled pins, which are put by ancient builders to arrest the hoop cracks. I saw many masonry domes, like one I am showing here is Saint Peter at Rome, where there are hoop tension cracks. And the ancient builders have tried to arrest it using butterfly wedge. Again, they failed to quantify, so butterfly wedge crack. There are many butterfly wedges, and they engraved the year for every butterfly wedge, and the duration is more than 3 centuries. So 3 centuries they were trying to arrest this hoop tension crack. Hoop tension cracks are still there in this Saint Peter Church dome. It's there in Pantheon. But the point is, if it's there for last 2000 years, 1000 years, why we are trying to retrofit it? If the structure is standing with those cracks for so many centuries, is it really necessary? Is it essential that we should arrest those cracks? So as I said, the analytical method address for this hoop tension cracks. I'm just showing you one example of FITLA, how it is effective and useful. So if you want to model these cracks, the problem is how to model it. Because we saw that if you model the block separately and mortar separately, there are numerical problems. You don't know the mechanical properties of the structure. If you use homogenization, still there are problems using finite element method. And crack cannot be modeled using linear model. You need non-linear analysis, and non-linear analysis required the identification of mechanical properties in non-linear zone. So if you cannot identify the properties in non-linear zone, you must model it in linear finite element, which is a bit innovative. I mean, it's rare that somebody has tried to model the cracks in linear analysis. We tried to do it. We have developed the special element for masonry for axisymmetric dome analysis. I am not going in mathematical part of it, which we developed. I'll just quickly skip it. We developed the iterative process, but in mathematical part, I'll just highlight one step, that what we did is we said sigma theta is equal to 0 for the element which are cracked, where hoop tension appear. This we set to 0, and we developed new constitutive relations for the material. That constitutive relation we have used for the analysis of masonry dome using iterative method. Like in first iteration, whatever is the hoop tension region appear, we change it to new element developed by Nandadeep. Put it to another analysis iteration. We saw that crack width is increasing, which is natural. I mean, if you are not resisting the crack will increase. Now there are two chances where either crack will keep increasing, like this white portion is a crack will keep increasing till the failure, or it will converge. Most of the cases it converges. So that's the algorithm which we developed for iterative analysis of masonry dome. This I am showing you comparison of our result. I mean, why not? We should be proud about it, because this method is developed in India, and we compared it with the method developed by MIT USA. Now it is accepted that our method gives better result than the result given by Jesin, who is from MIT USA. Our thrust line is this full line, and their thrust line is a dotted line, and our thrust line is a better approximation of the structural behavior using iterative analysis. Again, I am not going in much of the mathematics, but I am just trying to show you how iterative analysis works. It is initial crack. In second iteration, the crack is increased. It increased till last iteration when it converges. This is the convergence. These are the optimization study which we have presented compared with the study done by MIT USA. And again, here our results are superior than the results presented by them. So the highlight of method is it takes the advantage of both the approach, combine it together, and yield a better accuracy, and can give the result in absence of mechanical properties of the material. That's most important, because that's most difficult part in the analysis of heritage masonry structure. Honestly speaking, I can give separate presentation for analytical part for a couple of hours. So I really tried to squeeze it to minimum. So for structural engineers, it may be of more interest, and those who are interested can always refer to our specialized literature, our publications. It's all open to public now. So this is first part, which is a challenge in retrofitting of heritage masonry structure, the analytical part. And second part is structural health monitoring. So now in structural health monitoring, I am giving you example of some of the project done by us. Nilesh, how long I can take?
Yeah, it's 1 hour, sir. 11:40 we have started. You can go as per your content.
Okay, so 10-15 minutes, good enough
Yeah,
time.
no
So
issue.
I'll squeeze in 10-15 minutes
Okay.
for sure. So I am presenting some of the studies which we done under Hone Structural Health India Private Limited. We did few projects for health monitoring of heritage structure, few projects for regular residential building, some industrial building, bridges. So we are fortunate that we are getting so many opportunities for health monitoring. Out of that, some selective projects I am showing you. Like one here I am showing you for Qatar Pool, Doha. This was the building. You can see the building in plan. It's basically office building, and nearby there is a cooling tower, huge cooling tower here. And this is the office building. But what happened is, because of the some industrial demand, which is always typical in industries, they are bent to put the cooling towers, small cooling towers on the terrace here on the building. We did it with QDC, very renowned consultant in Qatar, doing work globally. So we are being fortunate to work with them. So the problem in this case was the QDC has already done the structural analysis. They ensure themselves that the building has no problem. Structure is safe. But the problem to the management was, what about humans? The staff, the people are working in that building for 8 hours a day for 10 years, 20 years. So exposure to minor vibration of these people, will that lead to some health hazards? You know how in this European country and even in Gulf, the rules are very stringent about the health. So they were worried that if somebody sue them about the health hazard, what should be their stand? So this problem was approached to us. For structural integrity as well as for human comfort. This is the drawing which was prepared by QDC to show where the cooling towers are placed. This is schematic diagram, like building was there and they put some cooling tower over it. As I said, the visual inspection is most important part. While doing visual inspection, we observed that these dampers to the cooling towers were failed. We observed that though dampers are provided to the cooling tower, but dampers were missing to the pipes, connecting pipes. Pipes were rigidly connected to the floor. So obviously that was transmitting the vibration in the floor. Here you can see, I mean, this one damper on right hand side is active. There is a gap between connecting point and the bottom body. But at some point, the spring was completely pressed. The body of cooling tower and the outer body of damper was connected directly, short circuit. So the vibration was directly transmitted to the floor. As I said, there are different codes, different country codes available. For structural integrity, we refer to the German code, which says that peak particle velocity should be controlled, peak particle velocity should be checked for the structural stability, for structural integrity. We put our accelerometer at different points, few points where the vibrations was noticeable, few points which are advised by designer QDC. So we monitored all those points for triaxial vibration. And here in vibration graph, you can see when we started the cooling tower, this is first peak. Convert it to pointer. This is first peak. Again, from transient vibration, it went to steady state vibration. Then we started second lot of the cooling towers. Again, it went into transient vibration, and again the steady state was achieved. So the transient vibrations were more critical for this structure compared to the steady state vibration. So when the cooling tower was started or stopped, that time the vibration notice was much higher. We calculated PPV using detailed calculations, detailed observation, and finally we concluded that PPV is much less than allowable value, and hence this structure is safe for vibration, that is for integrity of this. The second part is, as I said, about this health, human health, and that is typically related with acceleration value, RMS value, average acceleration. Again, there are different codes available. We refer to ISO for that particular problem. It's very interesting problem. I mean, resonance can occur for any particular structural component of our body. Like if you vibrate the eyeballs at the frequency of 8-10 Hertz, at very low frequency, low vibration amplitude, you may have huge problems for the eyes, because resonance occurs. It also depends whether you are sleeping, you are standing, you are sitting. Depending on your posture, the vibration has different effect on your body. There is a whole lot of theory, whole lot of research, whole lot of literature available on the human health and vibrations. So we studied all those aspects to address the worries of our client. We plotted acceleration. Again, RMS value we noted. We noted the frequency value of the vibrations, whether the frequency value of the vibration is anywhere close to the natural frequency of structural component of human body. These are the RMS value finally we calculated, which is 0.0045. Again, this was much lesser than 0.5 meter per second square, which was permitted by ISO standard. Hence, we certified that this structure is safe against vibration for structural stability as well as for human health in very scientific manner. I'm showing you this example so you can get a feel of how structural health monitoring is important, how important role it can play in our today's structural engineering and architectural practice. Second example is more relevant to our topic, that is emphasis on heritage structure. I'm discussing about stone masonry arch bridge. Which we are doing for PWD in collaboration with IIT Bombay. Here, this is old bridge which was constructed by Britishers in 1850. The bridge was having cracks like this. Now, this is typically what is happening, very painful, I am telling you. People who don't understand stone masonry, they become auditors for the stone masonry bridges, I'm a bit straightforward on this point because it's really painful. And then they go visit to the bridge. In 2 days, they visit 50 bridges. Out of that, they certify 30 unfit bridges for demolishing. That's painful. If you cannot construct nowadays this kind of bridges, then do you have authority to demolish these bridges without proper study? How somebody can study these bridges just by visual inspection? And this is what we are doing. Few years ago, the government of Ireland has passed one GR mentioning that their country is not going to demolish any single stone masonry bridge hereafter. If it is deteriorated, it will become just monument. Because something what you cannot construct, you don't have authority to demolish it. That's the spirit of that GR. Anyway, I'll come back to what we have done. This bridge has a crack which is longitudinal crack. Not the crack against meridional forces, but kind of hoop forces or orthogonal forces. When we visited, we observed that there is a retrofitting done to the bridge, one span, single span. And this retrofitting apparently seems to be done by Britishers, not by Indians. Seeing to the kind of steel used in this retrofitting, kind of section used in this retrofitting, it was very clear that this is not done by modern engineers, but done by builders who build this structure. And it was apparently built to arrest those similar kind of cracks only. It means the cracks were on this bridge since the construction. And this bridge was serving with those cracks. Few years ago, somebody saw those cracks, become panic whether this bridge will fail, collapse, who will certify the stability of this bridge. Again, certifying the stability is a problem. If you certify the stability and tomorrow something happens to this particular bridge, the law will ask you why you certified. So people are afraid to certify it to be stable. It's very easy to certify, demolish it and construct new RCC bridge. These are the photo of the retrofitting done by ancient builders, time members. We did detailed analysis. We did detailed finite element analysis. We applied our analytical method of FETLA on this bridge. We were very fortunate to get the collaboration from IIT Bombay, from Professor Siddharth Ghosh, from R.S. Jangir, from Professor Shimpi. Was honored to work with them on different stages of development of method and analysis of such structure. We observed through our analysis that there is a compression in meridional direction and minor orthogonal tension, which is Poisson's ratio kind of effect. And the cracks were correlated with this tension. So we decided our retrofitting methodology. I am just following this graph. We put crack meters to inspect the growth of crack. We put the tilt meter, tilt monitoring plates. We put the vibration monitoring equipments. These are the crack meters which we put on this structure. This crack meter is to observe the crack width, but at the same time we decided to observe the deformation in meridional direction to correlate the stresses in meridional and hoop direction or orthogonal direction. This is where we put the tilt plates on both sides of the bridge. This is the plan of the bridge. These are the installation of the crack plates, crack meters, the wiring. These are the 3 crack meters which we put on single arch, single crack. I am just showing you sample results. Then we put a calibrated vehicle to pass over this bridge. We actually check the weight of axle load of that particular vehicle for front axle as well as for rear axle. We allowed that vehicle to pass on that bridge, and when it was passing, we check actual deformation in this particular crack meter. So for example, we are checking the crack 4988. The deformation at zero reading was this. When we put the load or vehicle rear axle at the crown of that particular arch, we observed that compression occurred here, and which was correlating with our analytical result. In our analysis, we saw that the stresses, compressive stresses, are increasing, and the crack meter is showing that it is actually contraction, not expansion of the joint. So our confidence level increases. Yes, we are understanding the behavior of this bridge. Then this is another loading situation. Again, compression is observed, but the compression value are different. As you can see, when vehicle was at crown, the compression was more, but the vehicle at above the crack meter, the compression was less. It was again very well correlated with our thrust line analysis. And when it was on pier, near to the pier, there was practically zero reading to the third digit of millimeter. Similarly, we checked for tilt. The tilt value difference was everywhere less than 1 degree, about x-axis as well as about y-axis. So it was very insignificant, the way we were expecting again. We calculated the vibration for the bridge when the vehicle was passing. We checked the vibration when vehicle was not passing, vibration when vehicle was passing. Like here you can see, when vehicle is passing, the vibrations are increasing, 1, 2, and 3, depending on speed of the vehicle. So as here you can see, red is a parallel to the length of road. So vibration in the longitudinal direction of bridge. Blue is perpendicular, orthogonal direction, and green is a gravity direction. And the vehicle was passed at different speed. Phase 1, we have passed at 3 km/h when the vibrations were less. When the speed is increased to 9 km/h, the vibration has increased. These readings are very useful for two purposes. One, you can integrate the acceleration result to get the deflection result or velocity result. You can relate it with PPV, acceleration value, acceptable acceleration value, and the most importantly, these are the signs of the structures. If 20 years later I check this structure again for the vibration and compare the result 20 years ago and 20 years later, I can tell something meaningful about the deterioration state of that particular structure. This is another small example where stone masonry structure we try to make it smart structure by embedding the pressure cell. Now, after understanding the peculiarity of the structural health monitoring and analysis for this heritage masonry structure, very last point is how to go for retrofitting of this structure. What are the practical strategies? No, time is running out, so very quickly, maybe another 5 minutes. As here, one example I discussed previously with you, the tilting of the columns. Typically, the modern structural engineers are inclined to put the caging, reinforcement caging around such masonry columns and gunniting. This is what people are doing. But tell me, what is the durability of this RCC? If you use steel, the durability is not more than 25, 30, 40 years max. If you are using pure concrete, it may be more. But with corrosion of steel, certainly the durability is very limited. So such RCC encasing of this heritage building limits the life of the structure to another 50 to 70 years max, which are standing for many centuries. This structure was opened from front side few centuries ago and standing with such tilting for so many centuries. So I strongly believe that instead of going for such retrofitting, you better avoid retrofitting. If you want to retrofit it, you must understand what material is used. So you must use same material. If required, you should demolish this structure part by part and reassemble it. That is only the way to give justice to this kind of. This is another example which I showing you for farmhouse at Tuscan, where retrofitting is done using the anchors or tie rod, which is okay because these are external tie rods which can be removed, replaced, and are not damaging the original structure. This example I already discussed that many retrofitting are even not required, which we should not do. But if some retrofit like this beam retrofitting is required, probably you should provide another beam like shown here using similar kind of stone and additional stone columns. So use same material. Hook tension crack I already discussed many times. Hook tension cracks don't need it to be addressed because the structures are standing with these hook tension cracks for many centuries. Unfortunately, this Gol Gumbaj is put with ganiting and steel rods around the dome. Very unfortunate part. How somebody can do it without analysis of the structure, I really wonder how somebody is permitted to do that. Hook tension crack we already discussed. This is god of every example. I mean, I have not worked with this, but this is very impressive. Leaning Tower of Pisa. They are just monitoring, putting 100 rupees budget for monitoring and 10 paisa budget on retrofitting. So huge difference. And their retrofitting method is also very simple, very basic, without damaging the original structure. It's very learning example. Thank you. Nilesh ji, handed over to you, and my sincere apology for little delay. I took 10 minutes more.
Yeah, we welcome Moin Khan sir, our regional head customer service, West region, to take over the session, sir. Moin sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Mahesh and my colleagues and all the engineers present here because I was in a call, some important call was going on, so I could not join. But I joined, I think, almost 10 minutes before, after we have started. So wonderful presentation as always, Dr. Mahesh Verma. We'd like to thank you for your nice. I think the sound is echoing. So, Yadu?
Yes, sir.
I think we all are on mute.
Yeah, all are on mute, sir. All are on mute.
So anyway, I'd like to again thank Dr. Mahesh Verma. This is his second session in this lockdown period, which he has spared his time and taken on this platform of SEC Expert of the Day online series. And a wonderful presentation. I think it is a lot of details he has shared in a short time, but many things can also be discussed, which we can like in coming days we can maybe have one more session on the similar topic, because I understand that from the point of view of the structural analysis and all, there is a lot of things which may be discussed more, and there will be some people here who would like to understand more from Dr. Mahesh Verma. So in coming days we can see. Apart from this, I will request all the the engineers and architects who are present here, who are attending this webinar, that you can also get in touch with Dr. Mahesh Verma on this the email ID I think he has already given, and also the clips and highlights of this webinar and other webinars, along with the recordings which we are converting into the short clips. So that also will be available after the obviously after the permission from the app and approval from the speaker. It will be made available on the SEC Concrete Club app. So and also the questions which are being asked, that also we are compiling, and that along with the answers, that will also be posted on the Concrete Club app. So you will be getting the follow-up kind of sessions and information on the SEC Concrete Club app. So I'll request everybody to please download that app, and in coming days we will be organizing all these webinars through the app only, so that you can go in that app, you can log in, and then you will come to know the schedule of the webinars which are coming up from SEC side. And I hope, I mean, this webinars will not end after the lockdown period is over, because this is a new way of learning which we are understanding. So we will definitely carry on, and we will, keep on this approach of, sharing of knowledge and information. So thanks again, everybody. I'll just take some questions. There are almost 29, 30 questions which are right now, and they are increasing. So we can take some important questions. Like one is related to cement only, so I'll take that first. That Mr. Raja Subramaniam, he wants to know that is use of cementitious or concrete systems are advisable to use on heritage buildings, and what is the role of some heritage materials like palm jaggery, egg, kadukkai milk. I cannot pronounce it correctly. I don't know, kadukkai milk. And can we use BIM on heritage buildings? If so, how can we retrieve those data that should be implemented on BIM? That is BIM. So, Dr. Mahesh Verma, this is the question.
So, see, the thing is, for any heritage structure, one must use the material which is used by ancient builders, because change in the material lead to change in the stiffness of the component, change the load path, and lead to some kind of another deterioration which was not anticipated. So it's not about cement, or it's not about anything modern material, but you should follow the what material is used by ancient builders. That's the first. But cement and this material can be used to generate the modern heritage. You can create similar kind of structure which can stand for 500 and 1000 years, which I have addressed in my previous webinar. One can refer it. I think SCC has already put it on YouTube or somewhere. Okay, please, second part of the question.
Yeah, the second part is, what is the role of some heritage materials like palm jaggery, egg, kadukkai milk, and third part is, can we use BIM software on heritage building?
So for second part, see, this is bit unfortunate part that in our region, the truth is not spread very quickly, but myth is spread very quickly. People speak about these technologies very loosely. I am not against biological mortar, but I am against the use of such biological mortar without sufficient research. Somebody says that you add jaggery and we are adding jaggery to it without understanding why we are adding to it, what is it that we are gaining, is absolutely inappropriate. And then you are handling this heritage structure which costs thousands crore, millions, billions rupees, and your trying on it is not acceptable. Most of these heritage structures do not use any biological mortar. The hydraulic line is sufficiently strong, sticky material for construction of this kind of structures. Similar thing was happened regarding Ajanta. People initially thought that it is a biological color, and then they painted Ajanta using colors made out of flowers. And now they are facing the problem of termites and everything. Now latest research shows that it was a mineral color. So what a big damage happened to that Ajanta cave. So anyway, I don't recommend use of such materials in our heritage structure. And the third part is BIM. BIM is a building information modeling. As I said, if drawings are not available, you need to generate that. Like terrestrial laser scanners are available, which can be put in front of structure. This technology is similar to the radar technology. So you can actually capture the structure in 3D form, but you get a point cloud. So you need another algorithm to convert that to a geometry, which can be understood by architects, structural engineers, or the softwares like ANSYS. So yes, BIM can be used for analysis, support to the analysis, and that should be done. Sir, next question, please.
Yeah, thanks, sir. There is one question from Mr. Ravi Jilte. he want to know that what are the pre-assumptions for structural analysis of existing, that is the old structure, and what are the results to be compared with for conclusion on structural reliability.
So it's really very good question, because if you want to retrofit any heritage structure, the first and foremost thing you should do is a structural analysis. And for that structural analysis, you must know what are the parameters to be checked. So see, this is different than RCC structure and steel structure. Our whole curriculum, we learned strength of the material. But when we deal with the masonry structure, heritage masonry structure, it is strength of geometry. So it needs completely different vision, completely different theory. Unfortunately, it's no more part of the curriculum in our engineering studies. We are not focusing on it, so we are not aware of it. So one who is interested may refer to my specialized publications or research. It's really very small presentation to speak anything about analytical part. Next question.
Okay. Yes, sir. So Mr. Arvindan, he wants to know that what kind of sensors should be used, and I think he is doing some PhD project, so he wants to know that which sensor would be better. Is this possible to test specimen beam alone in SHM?
Absolutely. Structural health monitoring means like which medical test is good. For example, I'll ask, blood test is good or urine test is good. It depends on symptom first of all. Then which equipment should be used for testing depends on a purpose. How long you want to check for it. Okay. Do you want to monitor it for 100 years? Then you require different kind of setup. If you monitor for 2 minutes, just you want to monitor the crack width, for example, instantaneous crack width. What will you do? A vernier caliper in hand, it will allow you to measure the crack width. But if you want to check it dynamically with change in the time, probably you need some different setup. So depending on your purpose, the sensor type will differ. But the basic idea remain very simple. I studied many structural health monitoring equipment because I'm working in that field. Ultimately, I understood that everything comes down to very basic principles of the physics. Sir, next question.
Yeah. There is some comment and one question from Mr. Praveen Kumar Venkatrao. So he says that it is regarding the retrofitting strategy for masonry walls. So he says that we have seen that most of the wall fell in out of plane action during the earthquake. Several strengthening techniques are available like textile reinforced mortar, wire reinforced mortar, FRP, etc. But there is no study on the comparative efficiency of those techniques. So how to decide the strengthening technique which will prove to be the most efficient?
There are two parts in this question. Firstly, out of plane bending for the wall. It is not true for heritage structure. It is true for our usual building, okay, where we use thin walls. In that case, the failure is typically out of plane behavior of that particular wall. So the retrofitting strategy for the walls in our modern buildings and walls in heritage building is entirely different. That is first part. Yeah. Secondly, which material to be used. Now, once I was at Rajasthan to deliver some lecture on this heritage masonry structure. There they put some exhibition and I was discussing with some chemical supplier for this surface treatment to the stone. So I asked him, is it durable? He said, sir, absolutely durable. 10 years you need not to look back. Now, his definition for durability is 10 years is a durable. We are talking about the structure which are standing for 1000 years. 10 years is a very tiny duration. So the durability definition of modern engineering and durability definition of this ancient builder is entirely different. So when you are choosing the material for retrofitting, you cannot choose the material which is durable from today's definition. You must use proven material which is being used by this ancient builder. So that is the second part answer to this question.
Yeah. I think there are more questions. So we will take one or two more. Dr. S.P. Anchuri, our very beloved, senior and architect, engineer, doctor. He is always instrumental and active in all these webinars. So he is he's given his remarks like this is an excellent presentation, and he is also raising some comment like most of the times the heritage buildings, the main cause of distress damages are due to merely lack of maintenance. So the irony is most post rehab work the people are same. Did you provide the tips and post rehab instructions to structures you worked upon?
So, sir, basically, post-rehabilitation, health monitoring, continuous health monitoring is most important. Before maintenance or retrofitting also, health monitoring should be done. And after retrofitting, health monitoring should be done. Health monitoring should be done with the principle of minimum intervention to the structure. So, as minimum as required or as possible should be done on this heritage structure. Unless one is not very sure about the retrofitting method, the retrofitting should not be done on this structure. That is only my advice. So, post rehabilitation, again, health monitoring should be done.
Okay. So we'll take one last question from Mr. Sandeep Kumar, that does installation of Halifax bars on stone masonry can be efficient method for restoration of old structures?
See, again, any material which can stand only for 500 and 1000 years is a correct material. You should not add some new kind of material. Like you feel that you actually strengthen one particular column, but it means the load path is changed, that column stiffness is increased compared to the column stiffness of other columns. So load is transmitted through that column more. It may lead to differential settlement, new problems which you have not anticipated. So the basic idea is, that's why I have shown the model procedure, that you visit the structure, see for the cracks, see for the signs of the deterioration, do the structural analysis to understand the structural behavior, do the health monitoring to correlate with your site observation and structural analysis. Based on these three, you decide for minimum intervention and retrofitting methodology. After doing retrofitting, you should go for again health monitoring. That's the particular procedure. Modern material, any modern material should be discouraged in retrofitting of this.
Okay. So we'll take this last question, which just came, that Mr. Suttari, he wants to know that what are your comments on the ASI restoration?
I'm tempted to answer bluntly. The word is bogus. Most of the restoration, I mean, there may be a sincere effort. I should not ignore those efforts, those people who really work sincerely. But unfortunately, 99% time, these ASI people are using pure lime in restoration, not using hydraulic lime, just because hydraulic lime is not commercially available. There are no efforts to make it commercially available. I mean, it's by cement company, the organizers are cement company. So I will take opportunity to request even to you that people like you should explore the possibility of providing hydraulic lime on commercial basis, because it's the most durable cement. Day or another, these European or American people are going to float similar kind of material in our market as extreme durable cement. So why not our Indian company should do it? So we should explore such possibilities, and we should use hydraulic lime for restoration purpose, not the pure lime. Somebody like Suttari Saab may refer to my previous presentation, wherein I have compared the hydraulic lime mortar with ASI mortar, how it is different. So it's entirely different. That is first thing. Second thing, ASI is doing so many restoration. Show me one analysis report. Like where is the analysis, structural analysis report of Bivika Maqbara? Where is the analysis report of Kailash Temple of Ellora? I mean, we people are so full, we forward the so big thing about the Kailash temple on WhatsApp that it's so wonder, so this, so that, but nobody is doing the structural analysis of that particular temple. Just making it big for everybody. We need to do real efforts, and ASI is responsible to promote such practices. Just doing chemical analysis is not sufficient for this heritage structure. Structural part is most important because it defines the stability of this. But my again sincere apology for my little blunt word. It's just my emotions. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. We can see your emotions in that statement, sir, definitely. So, one last question. I mean, this is a very basic question. Mr. Nitish, he wants to know that which software will be better for analysis of heritage buildings, like Start Pro or ETAP?
Unfortunately, both are not useful. Both are useful for steel structure and RCC structure. Like Hodra mentioned, I have shown it that if you use theory useful for steel and RCC, then it will just add noise to your understanding. It will not give you any real understanding. We have developed our own software. We are trying to make it available on website. We are working with IIT Bombay to put it on website. IIT Bombay has one stage for development of software, so they are working on it. So the method developed by us can be put for use to everyone. It will be free to everyone for use. Meanwhile, I don't know which software can be really used, because even ANSYS, if you use without understanding of masonry, will add noise to your understanding. But still, those who really sincerely doing some effort and are interested can interact with me, and I assure to help for sure. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thanks. Thanks a lot, sir. I think with this we can close our session. Anything, Nilesh or Yadu, you want to add, or Chandrasekhar? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, thanks from our side. We have an interesting session on 23rd. I request all the participants to be in touch with my teammates. We will be sending the link of the session. So thanks for joining once again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Mahesh.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, sir. Thanks.